Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking financial accounting. And in this series of videos, we are working through the assigned homework problems from the digital study guide for Chapter 12, the Group B exercises. Note, accounting is about understanding the concepts and then applying that understanding to the situation at hand. If you get the application aspect wrong, that is one thing and is easily remedied by watching someone else work the problem. However, if you don't understand the concepts, that is a whole other thing. Watching a problem worked out will not help you if you don't understand the underlying concepts. Go back and study the text material again and watch the theory videos. If you still don't understand the concepts, then either email or telephone an instructor to get help with that understanding. Right, so we are working on 12-23B, right? Horizontal analysis, below our net sales and net income data for a 5-year period. Compute the trend percentages for net sales and net income for the 5-year period using year 1 as the base year. Which grew faster during the period, net sales or net income? Okay, so we're going to compute percentages right here. So let's see here, how am I going to do this? I'm actually going to have to set up a table. So let's call this net sales and let's call this net income. And we have year 5. Let's call this year 5, year 4, year 3, year 2, year 1. Okay. All right. So if we're using year 1 as the base year, that means it's 100%, right? Because it's the base. Right. So the difference for what we're looking at is we're looking at the difference from year to year. In other words, all I'm going to do is I'm going to do year 2. Remember, year 1 is the base. Then I look at year 3, right? And then I look at year 4. And remember, I'm still using year 1 as the base. And then I'm looking at year 5. Okay, so that's how we're doing this. We're not going from year 1 to year 2, then year 2 to year 3, then year 4. No, we're not doing that. Okay, we're taking year 1 as the base, right? And so that's why it's at 100%, right? So as a percentage-wise, what we're doing here is for net sales, I'm going to take the 2,346 and I'm dividing it by 2,300. Okay, and that difference is 102%. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the net income. I'm going to take 606 and I'm going to divide it by 600, and that gives me 101%. Right? So 101%. Right? That's what we're doing math-wise. Right now, for year 3, divided by 2,300. For year 3, all right, this is all just number crunching. I'm going to take 2,392, and I'm dividing it by the 2,300 from year 1, right? And that gives me a percentage of 104%. Right? And if I take remember, year 1 is our base year. If I take the 612 and I divide it by 600, that gives me 102%. Okay. So I'm just doing the same exact thing for the rest, for year 4 and year 5. I'm taking 2530 and dividing it by the 2300, and that gives me 110%. I'm taking the 630 and dividing it by 600, and that gives me 105%. And then when I go to year 5, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to take the 2714 and divide it by 2300, which gives me 118%. And then taking 660 divided by 600, which gives me 110%. So that's my trend percentages, and which grew faster during the period, net sales or net income. Well, you can look at that, and what you're looking at here is right here. Net sales is greater than my net income, right? So my net sales grew faster during the period. Okay, and you can see that year over year. I mean, the net sales here is greater than the net income by 1%, right? That's the difference between those two. For year 3, we're talking about, 2% difference. For year 4, we're talking about a 5% difference, and for year 5, we're talking about an 8% difference. Net sales increased quicker than the net income. Okay, so that's it for that exercise. All right, 24. Let's see here. It says, okay, we're going to do a vertical analysis this time. Natalie's Nursing requested that you perform a vertical analysis of its balance sheet to determine the component percentage of its assets, liabilities, and equity. Round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so let me make this smaller, and I'm going to stick it up here because I do need the space. Okay, so I'm not going to get all fancy with all of this. I mean, obviously, look at the solution in order to see the correct formatting for this. What's going to be more important is here, formatting is formatting. I mean, just, basically it's just a copying it and making sure you know how to copy, which surprisingly a lot of people don't know how to do. But I'm going to forego that because all I'm doing is, this is my working papers. It's not my printed out solution that I'm going to give to somebody else, which means on an exam, if you're asked for a vertical analysis or horizontal analysis, it needs to be formatted correctly. But when I'm just doing the work, quote unquote, on my working papers, it doesn't really matter how I do it, right? As long as I get the correct information that I do put into what I'm going to give to a third party, meaning on an exam, to a boss, to a client, whatever, okay? Right, so in doing a vertical analysis, we need an amount, and we need a percentage. And what we're going to do here is we actually have to take all of these here line items and recreate them, right, as in order to be able to do this work. So if I'm going to just abbreviate total current assets, right? The amount is 126, and I'm going to do this section by section. So I'm going to do the assets, then I'll do the liabilities, then I'll do the equity, and it'll make it easier to digest. Right? Then if I have a long-term investments, that's my 90,000. And then I have property, plant, equipment. That's 376,000. 76,000. And then I have my total assets are 592,000. Okay. So when I'm looking at my assets here, what's the base I'm going to use? All right. The base I'm going to use is going to be my total assets. Right. So my percentage for my total assets will be 100% because that's my base. Right. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these here figures and divide it by the 592 in order to get a percentage. So for my total current assets, I take 126,000, and I divide that by the 592,000, and that gives me a percentage of 21.3%. This is all just number crunching. Notice that there's not much as far as, I mean, what I have to think about is what I'm, what numbers I'm going to, divide by. But beyond that, it's just doing math. I take my 90,000 and I divide it by the 592,000, and that gives me 15.2%. The 396,000, the 376, I'm sorry, divided by 592,000 gives me 63.5%. Now, once you've gotten these percentages here, okay, if you add them up, they have to come out to 100%, right? And that's how you know you were doing it right, which really, if you're always dividing it by the 592,000, you shouldn't have an issue with being off or making a mistake. Okay, so that's what the asset section is going to look like. Okay, now pause the video here because I'm going to erase the assets and then I'll work on the liabilities. Okay, so I'm going to erase the assets. And I'm going to work on the liabilities. So my liability section, so I would have had my assets here, and that would have been all of these line items, right? Which we just worked out, and now we're going to work on the liabilities, right? In the liabilities, I have my total current liability, and I have my long-term debt, and then I have my total liability, right? So, all I'm doing is just reproducing this here, reproducing this section here, right? 120,000 less my 202,000 gives me, I'm sorry, not less, plus my 202,000 gives me 322,000, right? So what's what's my base? Okay. Well, oops, sorry about this. Now I'm asking you what my base is, okay? And if you went and you jumped to the conclusion that we're looking at 322,000, you're wrong. And that because for the simple reason you're not thinking about the overall concept. And I did this on purpose in that what's the accounting equation? My accounting equation is my assets is equal to liabilities plus my equity. Okay, so yeah, I have my liability section here, but I also have to put in my equity section, right? Because why? I need liabilities plus equity, right? So I have total stockholders equity, and which is 270,000, and then I have my total liabilities plus equity of 592,000. Okay, and that's the number we need in order to calculate all these percentages, because that's going to be the base, 100%, right? So I'm still using the 592,000, right? And I'm doing the same thing that I did as far as my assets are concerned. 120,000 divided by 592,000 gives me 20.3%. 202 divided by 592 gives me 334.1%. Now notice if you add these up, it should be the same as when I take 322,000 and divide it by 592. Okay, if I do, that comes out to 54.4%. So this number here, I could have gotten two ways. I could have either done it like this, or I could have just added these two up in order to get it, because that's just the mathematical calculation that we're doing on our financial statement, right? Okay. This, by doing it like this, it allows us to have double checks in our work in order to make sure that we're doing things right. So if I have 270,000 and I divide it by 592, okay, that should give me 45.6%, okay, and I know that if I had, I could have taken, if I take my 100% and I subtract the 54.4%, right, that would give me my 45.6 right there, right? By double checking doing the numbers, all because I understand the structure of the financial statement, the structure of the balance sheet, okay? So with all that said and done, I would have had my heading up here, and then I would have had my assets, which I paused and erased, right? But that would have given me my total, my total current assets, my long-term investments, my property, plant, equipment, and then my total assets. And that would have given my amounts here and the percentages here, and that would have been the complete financial statement. Okay, so that's it for this. Pause the video, go back and rewatch the video, I should say. Um, and if you still have any additional questions, go back into your textbook, relook at the vertical analysis, watch the theory videos, and if you still have any additional questions, feel free to contact an instructor.